We've been conditioned to believe this is the ultimate picture of health. If you want to look strong, you need to eat like a carnivore. We pack our plates with lean meats and chug protein shakes to build muscle, assuming the outside reflects the inside. But a recent experiment at a CrossFit gym put that exact theory to the test. 27 incredibly fit athletes, many strictly following meat-heavy paleo diets, volunteered to get their blood drawn. They looked like the pinnacle of human conditioning. This chart compares how these athletes look against their actual blood work. These bars represent their fasting glucose levels, and surprisingly, 5 of these shredded individuals were clinically pre-diabetic. Looking closer at the data, the rest of their metrics followed suit. 6 members had hypertensive blood pressure, and 14 of them had alarmingly high LDL cholesterol. The modern fitness industry has successfully separated how we look from how our bodies actually function. Building visually perfect muscle on top of a meat-heavy diet can turn seemingly healthy people into walking medical emergencies. Richard Min is a textbook example of this disconnect. He was a highly successful tech executive operating between Silicon Valley and Seoul, a former NCAA championship swimmer, and someone who appeared to be in peak physical condition. Then, at the height of his career, a massive stroke struck without warning. Despite decades of intense athletic training, his vascular system completely crashed. Richard fell into a coma for 2 weeks. When he finally woke up, he was battling aphasia, a severe neurological condition from brain damage that left him struggling to form words and communicate. Lying in a hospital bed, Richard realized something critical about our medical system. Hospitals excel at acute intervention, treating the crisis after it happens, but offer little when it comes to preventing illness in the first place. If an elite, able-bodied athlete can be completely derailed by a stroke, we have to figure out what went wrong on a biochemical level and how we can prevent it from happening to us. To find the source of his failure, Richard cross-referenced his personal history against thousands of clinical studies. He discovered that the standard markers of fitness, his swimming records and muscle mass, didn't account for the 98% of disease risk driven by his omnivorous diet. This connection is validated by a global dataset overseen by the highest levels of international governance. The United Nations has reviewed evidence placing the impact of food and agriculture at the center of the world's most pressing health and environmental crises. The World Health Organization has published extensive data showing that the standard Western diet, rich in meat and processed foods, is directly linked to the vast majority of preventable chronic diseases sweeping across the population. The data paints a clear picture of the biological culprit. Consuming high amounts of animal products actively fuels systemic inflammation inside our blood vessels, accelerating cognitive decline and quietly laying the groundwork for cardiovascular disease. Richard found his solution in whole food plant-based nutrition. It's a dietary protocol centered entirely on vegetables, legumes, whole grains, and fruits, and it's heavily advocated by over 17,000 evidence-based physicians worldwide. True disease prevention requires looking past the protein obsession of gym culture and adopting dietary habits rooted in rigorous, peer-reviewed nutritional science. To see how quickly this nutritional science works in practice, we can look back at those CrossFit athletes. After discovering their alarming blood work, the group swapped out their meat-heavy paleo meals for a strict, whole-food, plant-based Mediterranean-style diet. This graph illustrates blood test results 5 weeks later. You see a dramatic drop in LDL cholesterol, with athletes cutting levels in half. Adding other metrics, the picture clears. Triglycerides plummeted, and every athlete with pre-diabetic fasting glucose completely reversed their markers. You simply cannot out-train a poor diet. But by replacing inflammatory animal products with nutrient-dense plants, you can rapidly reverse chronic internal damage and heal your body from the inside out. Today, Richard uses food as a daily medical intervention. His protocol starts with bowls of steel-cut oats loaded with fresh berries, walnuts, and cinnamon, equipping his body to fight through aphasia recovery and aiming for a lifespan well past 100 years. His approach closely mirrors the traditional diet of Okinawa, Japan. Historically, before Western fast food arrived, the Okinawans lived on a 96% plant-based diet, fueled largely by purple yams, and they produced some of the highest concentrations of centenarians on Earth. Beyond individual longevity, Embracing a plant-based lifestyle is also the single most effective action you can take every day to reduce your personal environmental footprint and withdraw financial support from the industrial animal agriculture system. Some of the greatest analytical minds in history recognize this necessity. Albert Einstein famously argued that the evolution to a vegetarian diet was critical not just for human health, but for our overall survival on this planet. A reflection in the gym mirror shows us our physical conditioning, but our actual biological health is written in the blood. To survive and thrive, we must follow the evidence and embrace a plant-based life.